Welcome back, my friends, to another episode of the Suited Kings podcast. Today, we're starting off our WSOP Prep, and we're doing so in a little bit of a different way than before. We actually have a former guest on. So let's welcome back LuckyChewy. Good to see you. Welcome back.
Andrew, welcome back, brother.
Yeah, thank you guys. Great to see you both as well. I had an awesome time on the last occasion, and I'm excited to be here again.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And just so if our listeners don't know, this is our third WSOP Prep series, so we're very excited to get back to this. It's been a lot of fun doing these over the past few years.
Nice.
it has. Yeah. Yeah, and we enjoyed talking with you last time. And so today we're going to start off the series by talking a bit about your instincts in poker, mental game. We'll talk a little bit, not specifically about strategy, but different spots within a tournament where we can implement these things strategically and just sort of improve our game holistically. So, to start things off, the first question that I wanted to ask was, in what spots do you think that instincts can sometimes cost people money in poker?
Mm. Well, I think the most common occurrence when somebody is sort of deviating from, let's say, a theoretical game plan that ends up being costly is where they're doing so because, like, an intrusive thought or an emotional impulse, or I guess just broadly speaking, a bias comes into play. Um, and I think it's important to sort of delineate signal from noise in that sense. And there's no easy way to do that because this is an internal process that somebody, at least with the current technology that we have, nobody can like look inside your thoughts and be like, oh yeah, that was clearly a bias. I mean, in the
Mhm.
postmortem, you can break it down and try to reverse engineer like what was going on, how did you feel, what were you thinking? Um, like, were you uptight? Were you clenching? Was your nervous system relaxed? All those things can happen, after the fact, in a breakdown of sorts. But yeah, I think that's the most common experience is essentially you want something to be true. It's not actually true, and you act as if it is, and then yeah, you suffer the consequences typically.
I have a question following up on that. You said signal and noise. Is signal
Mhm.
being the intuition where noise is like the emotional response?
I think that's a fair way to say it, but really, I would describe it more so as signal is just something that's true and noise is something that's not.
Okay. Okay.
So
Yeah.
you're perceiving accurate data, something that is realistic when it's signal, and noise is just really anything that's going to distort your clarity.
What does
Yeah.
that look like you when you say and by the way, congrats on your recent PGT win.
Thank
Uh,
you. Appreciate
uh,
it.
do you have any moments that you can recall from then where you were trying to separate the thoughts of those two?
Literally every time I play. Yeah. I think it's super common where, this is again something I really love about poker because it doesn't matter how well you've done in the past or even that day, every moment really does um, force you to bring your best self. And yeah, I mean, that tournament for sure, I had moments, mostly early on. Later on, I had a pretty smooth experience because just got dealt a lot of good hands, and I guess heads up, there was some volatility, but for the most part, down the stretch, yeah, just got dealt good hands and had good runouts, and everything just sort of worked for me. But yeah, excuse me. The question was, how do I distinguish between the two?
Yeah, and if you find and on top of that, if you find yourself listening to the emotion or the noise, how do you back up and get back into listening to the signal?
Yeah, so I think over time you develop the ability to essentially hone your discernment so that when you have uh, an internal feeling, an impulse, a thought, whatever it is, however your intuition speaks to you most clearly, you're able to get a sense of when it is something that's real and when it's something that is maybe, well, I guess just noise, broadly speaking. But often I feel the ego when it's noisy, it can be loud. Like it's typically been my experience that intuition and like the truth, so to speak, is a bit more understated. Like it's not
Mhm.
sort of yelling at you. Sometimes it can come through as a strong feeling or impulse, but and maybe impulse isn't the right word because that's typically more associated with hasty decision making.
Mm.
Uh, but yeah, I feel typically that over time, because you do get pretty quick feedback in poker, right? That's something that's nice about being able to hone that discernment. Yeah, my sense is that you kind of have to figure out for yourself the ways in which that clarity materializes.
I think that that actually really opened my eyes there because, and for those who listened to the Jared Alderman podcast we did a month ago or however long ago it was, I was telling him a story about where I was in day 2 of this tournament. Everything was going super well. I made one small mistake, and all of a sudden, and I didn't see it this way before, but my head started getting cluttered with thoughts where I was out of flow state. I felt like I was like, I'm not in the same state of being where I was, where I'm just playing good. And in turn, it seemed like I started running worse at the same time, coincidence or not. But what you said is like, it seems noisier. And all of a sudden, I had a lot of noise in my head. I was less focused on the poker and I was more focused on how I was feeling. And I think that's maybe that kind of helped me maybe realize that once I start noticing that, I can start maybe pulling back from that a little bit. Wes, do you notice that as well?
I do. So actually, I have a different, like, since that, I have a different sort of example because in the MSPT I recently won, I came into day 2 with piles and I started off just continuing to accumulate. I lost a massive flip and then another cooler to the same guy. And suddenly when we got to the 3-table redraw, I was like quite a bit below the average chip stack. I had 20 something bigs. And I feel like that was a moment where I was successfully sort of able to reset like my expectation or just sort of like maybe avoid having those expectations in the first place where I'm like, I'm playing a 20 something big blind stack. Like I've, I think maybe what I had done well there is not initially really assign myself that expectation that I was going to final table or whatever. And so it would just, even though maybe it felt a little deflating, like
Sure.
it's hard to explain though,
It is
It
very
sounds
hard
like
to
you
explain.
just stayed present with it. You
yeah,
just focused
yeah,
on the
staying
task at
present.
hand.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think to your point, Max, about you're running through the hand. Again, just totally understandable. But my experience and sort of the way I think about uh, I guess luck in that sense, it's more of a perception or resolution issue where you're focused on something that isn't the present. It's harder to navigate the uncertainty that poker naturally presents you with and to make decisions under pressure when you have other stuff going on in your mind that is inherently noisy. And again, that's what I love about it. I love that poker forces those issues to the surface and it confronts us to deal with them because I don't know, I just think it's great. It's just such a great opportunity to learn.
It's such a mind game, and it teaches you a
Yeah.
lot about yourself. And I think also it helps develop patience. I think that's something that has helped me develop with my newborn as well.
Oh, yeah. And definitely releasing attachment to outcomes because, yeah, you
Yeah.
can't control
Yeah,
everything.
yeah, that as well. And I will say it's still not quite enough to prepare me for this whole fatherhood thing. But
You'll get
Yeah.
better. It doesn't get easier, you just get better.
yeah,
Um,
Wes, you were saying something?
that actually leads very well. Talking about control, that leads me into another question I had is, do you think that there's a desire amongst people to try and have too much control over outcomes? And then this desire for control is just something you can't really implement successfully in poker. And
Yeah, I think it's in some ways a bit of a paradox because
Mhm.
the control that people seek to have, um, it can't happen in like an overt way where you sort of try and like muscle your way through a situation to get the outcome you want. But I feel like the outcome that is desired can happen, at least it becomes more likely if you set yourself up for success in advance, like you did in that 3-table redraw. You just kind of release the expectations, you release the attachment. You're like, all right, I'm here, just gonna, enjoy my experience, do my best. I think there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah. So to go off of that, do you think there are and let's get like specific about,
Sure.
spots in poker. Like I'm thinking about, I think most of our listeners are more advanced than this, but like a time when someone has 25 bigs and they just open rip pocket jacks because they don't want to get sucked out on, like, are there more subtle spots where maybe good recreational players make mistakes due to a desire to control the outcome too much, whether it's aggression or being passive?
Yes. I'm not sure I have off the top of my head, like, I guess a population read in that sense where, I see X, Y, or Z that happens at that stack size, that could be avoided because it is going to be different from player to player. But I think what you're alluding to is really just making decisions from a place of fear because
Hmm.
you're concerned about what the outcome might be if you don't, sort of, again, try to control or mitigate it. But yeah, poker doesn't typically reward that, right? It's like opening jacks for whatever the normal raise size is, given the position you're in, the other stacks, etc. It's just going to have a higher expectation, and yeah, I just think that's a better way to approach the game is to look to maximize the value of the spots you're in, and not to avoid the ones that might be slightly uncomfortable.
I think that's a
Yeah.
good takeaway for people who are going out there this summer. Because I know, well, you don't get a lot of opportunities, so a lot of them I feel like are making a lot more fear-based decisions out there, knowing that there's a bracelet online, if that makes sense.
Can be, yeah. And again, I think this is part of why poker is so awesome. It forces you to confront that because again, it's a little bit contradictory. It's like, of course, everyone registering the tournament wants to win the bracelet, but then those fears pop up, and it's a great opportunity to acknowledge what has been in the subconscious all along. It's just coming forth into the conscious mind, where it's like, okay, I'm afraid of losing or looking silly or whatever it is, for a different individual. And yeah, if that can be overcome, that's again not just going to help you in poker, but it's probably just going to be a net positive in your life more broadly.
I feel like that really will probably show itself on the WSOP main bubble, from people who want to get
Mm.
that main cash.
Yeah, it can
Honestly,
be like a bucket list.
honestly, man,
Well,
like Max, you and I still have not cashed the main. Like that might show up for me the first time on the main event bubble. I'm not kidding. Like I've thought about that. I'm like, God, it usually bursts first level of day 4. I'm like, if I have 20 bigs on early day 4 main event, like, am I just folding like 99% of
Thanks
hands? I
for
don't.
reminding me of the pain, Wes. It hurts every
Yeah,
time. It's my very
yeah.
first main event. I was 19 from the money.
Wasn't even thinking of that, but
And
yeah.
well, I mean, I did not make fear-based decision making. I opened queens in early position. This kid who had been, you know, aggressive, we'll just call him aggressive, had been three betting pretty recklessly, and he had a large stack. So I four bet jammed 23-ish bigs with queens, and he had aces. So and there we go, we're out. So my parents who were had some action thought it was a bad play, but
I would respectfully disagree. It sounds like you did well there.
thank you. They just wanted me to get the cash, though, right?
Of course, yeah.
Even, I mean, even they were experiencing the fear-based decision making, not even
Yeah,
playing the
well, like
tournament.
Well,
that's
that's
what's yeah.
actually a good caveat though. Is like if you sell a piece to people who are going to be invested, like emotionally invested in that way, you could even be making different decisions based on that, where you're like,
It's a great point.
oh,
Yeah.
I would be comfortable bubbling, but like their hope is already so high. And so like, yeah,
Yeah.
that could come into play too. Um, I do think, yeah, the World Series, it happens in any tournament, but World Series especially, I think there's like extra pressure. I mean, even a lot of our listeners are Minnesota players. There's a guy, Preston, who he does great
Mhm.
work. He'll like post updates of, oh, here are all the Minnesota players who bagged this event. Here's their stacks. Like, good luck. So even just like seeing your name on that post, like there's sort of like if you're someone who's going out for 2 or 3 events you want your name on that
Yeah,
Twitter
because the
post, you
Minnesota
know?
scene follows him, and he does it out of, yeah. By the way, shout out to Preston. Like he'll send you, like if he even knows you slightly or has your contact information, he'll text you your entire table draw,
Wow,
with
Mhm.
with all their Hendon's links. So
that's
just out,
amazing.
just for his own, just because he loves it so much. So shout out to Preston, by the way. Sorry for the tangent there.
Yeah.
Uh, what did we end on there? It was just, oh yeah, fear-based decision making, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I'll just add one thought, I guess,
yeah.
about the desire to be on the list or whatever it is. Those things, it's understandable. Like it's acknowledgement, it's affirmation, it's like social proof or what have you. But really, at the end of the day, none of that is going to help you perform better. It will, if it makes you feel better, it can be helpful, but these are superfluous things in sort of the grand scheme. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't know. I find it sometimes challenging to tell people like, hey, you shouldn't desire this because like how
Right.
do I know? Like, but I guess my point is it's fine to derive enjoyment from being on a list like that, but you don't want to let it override your ability to execute and make good critical decisions in big moments.
Yeah, and I think to go off of that, it's like when it can be such a good step to recognize and even accept like, "Oh, I am motivated by this thing.
Mm.
Do I actually want that? Like, is that what I want to be motivated by?" Or like it can sort of help you rewire because I think everyone who goes to play poker, like 99.9% of people listening to this are going to be like, no, I would really like to maximize my profitability, but
Hmm.
maybe I'm subconsciously being motivated by wanting to bag an event where making day two doesn't guarantee you anything, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think you nailed it.
And
yeah.
that's where being honest with yourself about like what would you have to believe is true in order to feel a certain way, or what are you afraid would happen if you did something or you didn't do something, is just so
Mhm.
helpful. It just kind of unlocks, what are the inner mechanisms of your subconscious that are going to largely dictate your performance in big moments.
Mhm.
Let's take it did you have a thought there, Wes? It looked like you had one.
Um, No,
Okay.
I was just mostly agreeing, yeah.
Okay.
Actually, no, the one thing I did want to say is, like, is there sort of a I don't know, does your body feel that if you've been making a feel or a fear-based decision, does it just, like, feel different in your body? Or, like, what does it feel to overcome that, I guess, is the
Great
general question.
question. So I typically think it's more likely that people make fear-based decisions when their nervous system is upregulated in a sympathetic state. And oftentimes, for me personally, that's experienced as like a clenching. Like
Mhm,
right now, I'm relaxed, I'm hanging out with you guys. I can like feel my heart in my chest. I can feel the openness. I'm at
mhm.
ease. I'm not feeling pressured or threatened in any way.
That's
Um,
good.
it is good. Yeah. It's my preferred state of being for
Yeah.
sure. But in moments where fear-based decisions are looming or being made, um, again, you have to be in that state first for that to happen. So if you can just recognize when you're in that state and breathe into your heart or do whatever practice or mechanic works for you to get into a more relaxed state, then you can't really make a fear-based decision if you're not in a state of fear.
This will obviously look different for different people, but like
Mhm.
what do you think maybe some common feelings people would be experiencing when they were in, potentially, or a feeling that they need to overcome to get past that fear based, or like you said, maybe tightening up, or just yeah, like what are some things that they might be experiencing that they can recognize?
Yeah, I think it's very common that people go into fight or flight because it's not that the situation itself is inherently threatening, because like no one's going to physically hurt you at the poker table
Well,
in most places. But it can feel like that might happen, or one can perceive the threat of loss or the possibility of loss as a physical threat.
yeah.
And
Mhm.
when the mind wanders in that way, it can result in that upregulation of the nervous system, where you literally start to perceive your surroundings as a threat. And yeah, I mean that's what I think causes that clenching, that tightening of the nervous system of the body.
I still experience it, and I'm just thinking about it, I experience that quite a bit still. I don't play as much as I used to, but like, and it's definitely not earlier in stage. It's usually later in stages, and sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But I especially when like in an environment where I'm not comfortable, such as the WSOP, compared to something like an MSPT where I've been deep multiple times. It just is something different about maybe the environment that I'm in or the expectations I have for it.
And
Yeah,
I would say, while I definitely still have felt that, like, I recognize that when I started playing poker full time, or even maybe a little bit before that, I had like such a desire to be successful at it, not only to prove to myself, but to other people, and just like so I could actually continue to do the thing I really
valid.
liked and loved as a career. Like I put so much pressure on myself that like I was frequently in that state. And so like
Mm.
and like even though I kind of knew it, just knowing it doesn't immediately make it go away.
Correct.
And so,
Awareness is the first step.
yeah. And also like if there are some times where maybe it is like if you put 20% of your bankroll into one tournament, like
Mm.
maybe there is an actual threat there in a sense, like,
Yeah.
but that decision should have been made before buying in, you know?
We've discussed that a
Yes.
lot in the past,
And
especially with our bankroll management
yeah,
episodes.
and I never did that, but, um,
Well, then you haven't
Oh,
I
I've done that, boys,
yeah,
back in the
then you
day.
haven't I was gonna say, then you haven't lived. Uh,
yeah,
I don't recommend it,
no, no.
but
yeah,
in my younger years, I was pretty ambitious, to say the
Uh,
least.
totally. I guess
Wes
to be
skipped
fair,
that phase.
when I was, like, super young, like, in college, and I really didn't have money, like, sure, I guess then if you could count what I had as a bankroll, then I for sure did it, but, um, not when I was taking it seriously, but, like, I still felt that pressure and, my nervous system felt the way you were describing, and it's
This is very
like
common.
it's super common, and I think so many players sort of have this instinct to be like, "Oh, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not scared of losing," and it's like, actually, you probably are in some way, or maybe not losing the money, but you're afraid of looking like an idiot or looking weak or whatever it might be.
I,
Yeah, there's some underlying belief that causes that experience. I really do think that beliefs are kind of the foundation for a lot of our physical experiences, whether it's the thoughts we have, the emotions we feel, the actions we take. Um, yeah, I think like examining your belief systems is of the utmost importance for something like this.
and then being
Mhm.
honest with yourself that that's the case. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's take a step back to instincts again. And this is a question I
Mhm.
guess I have for you. And I feel like I've seen this before, maybe even experienced this before. But do you think experience, how do I word this? Do you think experience can make instincts worse in some spots? Um, Maybe, i.e., winner's tilt, or maybe um, you believe your pattern recognition is better than it truly is because you've been winning
Can,
Or
can
losing, like,
happen.
yeah.
or losing. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it can happen.
Do you experience that in the high
It's
roller scene?
I have experienced it. I'd like to think I'm measured enough. Like I definitely don't
I should
like
say, do you
tilt.
see it rather, not experience it, but do you see it amongst the field?
Mm, not really in the high roller scene amongst regs as much because I mean if you're a regular in that scene, like you're generally quite measured.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, I have seen this before though, and I think the way that it materializes, at least winner's tilt, um, it's just a bit more subtle. You just feel like you can push things a little bit further than maybe is reasonable. You extend yourself a little bit more rope and just throw caution to the wind ever so slightly more. But it wouldn't be an overt thing where you start opening like significantly wider preflop or whatever. It's probably just gonna end up looking like, lighter call downs or looser bluffs, most likely, is my thought.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Just kind of getting into the mix a little bit more because you're overconfident.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think if I were to say the one that I've experienced myself the most is if we hero call and we see the nuts a few times in a row, then it's like suddenly we find ourselves over folding when in reality it's like, if I'm calling the river, I don't actually need to be right that often. But if you lose a bunch of hands in a row doing it, then it can just rewire yourself a little bit to suddenly fold these hero call spots sometimes.
Yeah, and that can be good or bad depending. Sometimes there is a signal there, right? It's like, hey, maybe you're just like calling in spots where people aren't really bluffing enough. Or to your point, maybe it is just like, okay, you just ran at the top of range and like, like your spot max with queens, where it's like, yeah, you ran at the top of range, but you had queens against an aggressive three better. Like you made the right decision more than likely given the circumstances.
Well, you get some people who will, they'll essentially make that a person sound more aggressive than they truly were to kind of justify their action as well,
Sure.
which I'm not doing here, I swear to God.
I believe you.
But that's
Yeah.
something you see a lot as well. The ego gets in the way.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and that's the kind of the beauty of poker, though, is like we have to determine, is that a signal, like, because there are some spots where people just way under bluff and we can just fold all the bluff catchers. And then and I think we'll find those especially in live tournaments of the type that most of our listeners and including us play. Like if we're out playing a 1K or a 1500 at the WSOP, there are going to be a lot of recreationals that just aren't going to have bluffs in these spots. And then, if you're playing a high roller, if you're playing, a tough online tournament, you probably, maybe it is more of just noise in a way. And you kind of have to, yeah, it's all situational. Like that's the tough part about it. There's no perfect answer to it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
We were talking about pot control earlier, Wes, and we also were talking on this podcast already about fear, obviously fear-based decision making. Do you have any general tips you would give to our listeners, Andrew, in regards to essentially differentiating pot controlling with fear versus pot controlling when it's correct? I know it's very general, right?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I'm just trying to think how to answer it. My initial sense is that is something where like game theory can be helpful because to a large extent, it's like what does pot control really mean? I mean, I would think of it as like playing passively as opposed to aggressively.
Yeah.
And I think the times where that's warranted are less about like a sort of how to even say it's less abstract. It's going to be more like specific to the way that your hand wants to be played or the equity that your range has relative to your opponents. Like it's going to be oftentimes like a more technical aspect, unless there's like a live read or something that would be more situational. So yeah, my felt sense is that it's probably something that just becoming more familiar with the structure of the game
Yeah.
would be an unlocker there for somebody who's struggling with that.
That makes sense too, and that comes with a lot of experience. Obviously, knowing board textures, when you should be betting second pair on three straights or three flushes versus checking them
What's
back.
the right size to use, all that stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I guess pot control. And I'm definitely guilty by just pot controlling, like especially specifically in the main event because like it's fear-based decision making where I'm just like I don't want to play too big of a pot where like I could obviously I'm ahead here, I have a lot of equity, but I'll inflate the pot and if they catch their 20% equity and all of a sudden I'm losing most of my stack when I shouldn't be thinking that way because my equity is so high in the first place. So
Well, so I don't want to encourage you to do something you feel like is a mistake, but I will point out that main events are a different format or a different type of atmosphere than like a high roller, for example, where you typically want to push thin edges a bit more. And the reason is really just because you're likely to encounter future scenarios where you get maybe not handed a stack per se, but your edge in the tournament is just going to be much higher than a smaller field with a higher buy-in.
yeah,
And I think the reason that you do something matters a lot, where you might make the same play, but you can make it for a different reason. And if you make it because you're fearful of something, that might not be particularly worthwhile. But if you make it because of a measured decision of in this spot, I have this type of hand, and I it's almost like you're adding a risk premium. Like it becomes more of an ICM type environment relative to, I guess, the stage of the tournament you're at if everyone were extremely
yeah,
competent.
yeah.
Is this making sense at all?
No, it does. But
It is.
generally you're saying that we should be pushing our edges in these main events. Is that my understanding correctly or no?
Well, I mean, yes, definitely poker
Yeah,
is about pushing edges, but I'm saying that sometimes playing a hand in a certain way where maybe you play it more aggressively. I mean, the jacks open shoving for 25 bigs is like an extreme example where that's
yeah.
probably not going to be justified. But um, I'm trying to think of what the right thing would be. Basically, just like playing a hand more aggressively. Let's say you're on the turn, the stack to pot ratio is like 1.2 or something, and
Mhm.
you could either like bet small to induce on a board where like you probably don't really have any bluffs that would shove for the full stack, but a more balanced strategy would be to make a smaller bet. But maybe your opponent is not going to check raise like at all, uh, and you just sort of decide, okay, I'm just going to go all in because it just feels like a more pragmatic choice. It's not really one that's made out of fear, even though it might not be as theoretically sound.
Okay.
It's one which is sort of tempered, or tempered isn't the right word. It's chosen based on the larger context you're in, which is this main event, and you just being in the tournament, the future edge that you have in all the hands that are yet to be dealt is significant. Um, Giving up a small amount of EV potentially, and again, it might just even be that
That makes
the turn
sense.
jam in this case is the right play because your opponent is not going to check raise or whatever. I'm just trying to point out that making a play that might seem to be one which comes from fear doesn't necessarily have to be. It could be the same outcome, but the intention you have going into it, I think, matters quite a bit.
As you said, the
Mhm.
measured, or however you said it, the measuredness of it. Essentially, it's making sure that it's based off your comfortability, or maybe not comfortability, but the thought put into it rather than the emotion put into it.
Yes, there's an analysis, there's a chain of logic, like it's a well thought out choice.
Do you have any recommendations for maybe books or things of that sort that maybe discuss these kind of topics that people could read ahead of the WSOP, whether it's poker related or not poker related?
My go-to recommendation for books, or it's always the Tao Te Ching because I love Taoism and I think that it's such a timeless text. Um, it's not a religion; it's a philosophy.
Okay.
Uh, I would say it's like Buddhist adjacent, but yeah, every time I come back to it, I'm just feeling like there's just something new I experience or learn. You do have to kind of be a certain type of person, I guess, to get into a text like that. And then something that's a little bit,
Open-minded. Is that the person?
yeah, and like it's old, right? So the translation by Stephen Mitchell is my favorite one, the one that's typically
Okay.
heralded as the best translation. But on my website, luckychewy.com, I have a holistic poker handbook that I put out for free,
Hmm.
and that could also help people. It kind of it's just like short tidbits of like some theory and strategy, some mindset, some philosophy, some aspect of metaphysics. It's kind of just trying to link holistically the things I think are useful or important to succeed at poker.
Okay. Okay. That makes
Yeah.
sense. I'm gonna
Um,
I'm gonna check that out for sure.
Cool. I
for
hope you enjoy
sure.
it.
Yeah.
And by
Tell,
the
tell me what
way,
you think of it.
I will,
when you read
and
it.
I will put a link to your website in the show notes. So if anyone wants to check that out, make sure to check the show notes of this.
Good
Okay.
idea. What you were just talking about before actually reminded me of a discussion that we had in our Discord group about, maybe these spots where like staying in the tournament long run has a higher EV than maybe taking this really thin spot or something.
Hmm.
Um, so I had someone ask me, or just ask generally, you know, in these big fields, are there times when we want to avoid flips, because of our edge on the field, et cetera? And I had responded like, this may have just been a semantics thing, but my response was kind of like, well, if we know we're flipping, like we don't want to avoid flips because a lot of the times, let's say we opened to two bigs, we get jammed on for 20, there's 24 and a half bigs, we have to call 18. Even if we know we're 50-50, calling makes us like 3.12 big blinds, right? And
Hmm.
sort of like, but maybe what the person was getting at was not literally flips, but break even spots,
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, and so I guess the first point is the point I did make in there is like flips are not break even. Like at the point of making the call off, it's actually very plus EV to make the call.
Hmm.
But yeah, talk a little bit more about that. Like, are there times when if you find a spot to be break even or maybe barely plus EV from a chip standpoint, like are there certain tournaments you're maybe taking that spot versus not?
Definitely, yeah. And I think that's one example of where, again, in like a smaller field, higher buy-in type environment, you're sort of forced to take those thin spots because the likelihood that you get some future situation that is more favorable, um, it's just not going to be likely enough. But it's always a fine line because, as you pointed out, in a certain case where like you're plus three BB to make a call, I mean, you do still have to find those spots to push edges. That's how you win in poker tournaments. And I think
Yep.
in something like the main event, despite the fact that, I was just explaining where you can, in the example where, you have this turn spot, you go for the jam instead of like the small bet. It's just one example of a way in which that could be an adjustment that is made. But if that's taken too far, the issue is that people then start to shell up and they're not taking enough risk because you still have to win the tournament and it's a long tournament. So if you're early on, you do have to take risk. It's not as if you can just wait around and then, once every couple of orbits you're going to get aces and be able to win some big pot. I mean, that might
That's
happen and it's great if it does, but you can't really rely on that. That's not a winning strategy or formula.
For sure. I feel like that
yeah.
is a very and like I remember thinking like when I was first getting into poker that was the correct way to play. Like, I mean, maybe it maybe I mean if your opponents are all
It,
blasting off, it's maybe not the most terrible idea, but
for sure, yeah. But I think that's well said where it's like, and my response to the person was kind of that, where it's like, if we're going to pass up on these plus EV spots, then where does this edge come from that we're going
Exactly.
to accumulate chips later on?
Right. Like, why is that not the future spot you were waiting for?
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's a
Um,
balancing act. It's just
yep.
like discerning, is this actually enough edge? Yeah, there's no like black and white answer.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think another former guest we've had on, he didn't even say this directly to me, but he said it to a mutual friend. I know Josh Reichert, who you probably familiar with him.
He's quite a good big field player, right?
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
definitely.
yeah. He one thing he said is, there's no such thing as waiting for a better spot. Like if it's a plus EV spot, just take him, take him, take him, and like that's literally where your edge comes from. And if you're passing up on the ones that are only slightly plus EV, well, maybe you're just winning slightly less money because of it.
Interesting.
And I think that's a good.
that conversation comes up a lot though, whereas when I'm talking to hand with someone, I'm like, well, or they're talking to me, whoever comes, but it's like they're like, yeah, it's a good fold, even though you have it's plus EV because there's so many better spots in the past or that you can still find at that. But essentially, what Josh is saying is that no, we should just be taking all of them, and that's how we're going to be
If
winning.
right, and Max, you and I before this podcast were talking about this, where sometimes it's sort of just the wording or semantics, where sometimes when people say, I just can find better spots, what they mean is this was actually just a bad spot.
Yeah.
But sometimes when people say they're better spots, what they're kind of alluding to is, well, this was kind of a good spot, but I'm going to wait for a better one. And I think that's what we want to avoid is like
Right. That can be the fear
That's a
speaking.
great,
that.
yeah, well
I
articulated.
think that is the fear speaking, where it's like, that is kind of how we end up with these short stacks. Maybe we survive in tournaments more frequently, but we're usually not chip leading, and just the comfort with taking these thin spots. And I think especially someone like Josh, I don't know if there's a better person to speak on behalf of these big fields.
I mean, he's what? Yeah, he's like he's got second in the WSOP mini main. He's won the WPT Seminole Hard Rock. He's got like 20 rings or something.
Yeah, a
He's
couple
won multiple
MSPTs.
MSPTs, including the major. Yeah, he's literally the GOAT when it comes. And it's funny though, because like he's
He got third in the Millie last year.
got third in the
Yeah.
Millie, yeah. And he's not. It's funny because he's not one of those guys that studies theory super hard. He obviously learns it through talking poker, but like he is someone where instincts are he's just so dialed into listening to,
Mhm.
probably his signals rather than the noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some people are just like that. They're just great card
I,
players.
I envy that. I mean, maybe I'm trying to become better in that sense because it's like, yeah, he is definitely that person who's just naturally gifted at cards.
Mhm.
Or
And
with
something I just wanted
listening.
to add, Wes, when you made that mention of his sentiment, that came to mind for me is like, yeah, maybe he's obviously not afraid to bust, right? There's no
Mhm.
fear on his part, and sometimes he will, and the times when he doesn't, then he has a big enough stack because he is pushing smaller edges to weather the storm of a spot that he faces, but he's just setting himself up for success down the line.
Yep.
And
Yeah, absolutely.
and one other thing I want to add to that is, and this is something I think a lot of people deal with, is that he's not afraid to look dumb with
Yep.
the spots he takes, whereas a lot of people are afraid to be judged. I remember someone came into our Discord within the last few weeks here and was like, I don't remember what she said exactly verbatim, but it was something along the lines of like, I made this decision that made me look extremely stupid. How do I prevent that in the future? And essentially, all the
Mm.
responses to her were, "We all look stupid all the time.
Yeah.
Don't worry
Like, that's
about. Don't
actually
even think
good
that."
that it's actually good. Yeah, whether it was a good play or not, who knows? But like, yeah, the fact that she made a decision that did make her look stupid, it's like, actually just learn to become more comfortable with that. Like,
Yeah,
I
don't seek
think
it out, but be okay with it.
Yeah,
yeah. I think, while we're talking about Josh or someone who's successful in tournaments, like, I think there's sort of a feeling people have of like, oh, once I have a few wins under my belt, then I won't be afraid of looking stupid because I'll already have the validation. But I think it
Mm.
kind of has to go in the other direction where you have to
Yes,
find a way to overcome that first
in order to get the success.
in order to get the success. I mean, you could sun run your way into a victory without
You
it, but
can, but
like,
you're a lot more likely to get it if you confront those demons, so to speak, initially.
yep,
That
yep.
makes sense. I mean, this episode's obviously about getting your mind right for the WSOP. Andrew, is there any ways you found reliable to reset during the WSOP? Say you've gotten 3 tournaments in a row and busted them all. What are some ways that you can maybe take a step back and get into the next one fully refreshed at 100%?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I'll often look to just like spend time with friends or family, maybe just max late reg, spend time outside, especially. Just do the things, exercise, whatever it is that I feel is necessary to just be in a state where when I arrive, I'm content and I'm ready to play. I'm really not an advocate of like forcing it and like forcing yourself to show up on time But again, this also speaks to like my personality. Um,
Hmm.
I've never been like a super rigid person, but I think
Mhm.
that in a series like the WSOP that runs for so many weeks on end, I don't know, for me it's just not sustainable to just push myself like that day in, day out. I'll just burn out and I just won't want to be there. And that's really the worst thing, right? Is when
I
it
felt
becomes
that.
not enjoyable.
Yep.
100%. And Wes and I were talking again prior to this episode. We were talking about FOMO, and especially at the WSOP, we're there for a limited amount of time. We busted a few tournaments, and while I'm like, well, I'm only here for a limited time before I get back home. Like, I'm just going to keep firing away, and I'm
Like,
just
oh,
not
these
in.
are the best tournaments of the whole year,
Yeah,
right?
and I'm just not going to play my best. And I think, and that's something I definitely struggle with is just like taking a step back and not firing that next tournament, going on a walk, getting away from poker in general, go bowling, as we were talking
Yeah,
earlier, Andrew.
totally.
Just kind of getting your mind away from it, because as we've discussed many times, breaks are so important, not just for poker, but everything in your life, just to stay balanced, just to get your juices flowing again, to recharge your battery.
Yeah, no, very well said. I think
Mhm.
actually probably the most important thing in poker for me is just that I do continue to enjoy it and have fun when I'm playing, and I'm just grateful for the experience and the opportunity.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, if that's gone, I don't want to say I have no chance of success, but it's significantly limited. And again, it's just like, what's the point? Like, I think life is meant to be enjoyed. So you may as well just do something that you do enjoy, um, so that, when you show up, you're happy to be there.
Yeah, I like it. Do you have any tips for that, maybe, and maybe don't have an answer for this, but ways people can maybe audit their instincts instead of just studying before the WSOP? Maybe
Um,
outside of poker, with things that, like, what are some things that you might do in your normal life, maybe with your child, or or things that you notice your instinct that they can maybe kind of connect that feeling to something out inside of poker.
well, I do think awareness is the first step with anything like that.
Yep.
Um, I did create an app. It's a bit abstract. It's the ChemSet Intuition Trainer.
Yeah.
It's I don't know to what extent this actually helps with um, non-local intuition in poker, but it does put you in a different headspace. Essentially, you're just uh, using your felt sense to discern which card is coming next in a randomly shuffled deck, and you're getting scored while doing so. So I don't know, people might enjoy that. Sometimes I play speed chess to get a sense of like
Mm.
how my instincts are working.
Okay.
But yeah, I really do very strongly feel that if you're enjoying the experience that you're having, you are so much more likely to succeed. And again, it's just like it's just easier to do. It's sustainable. Um, I'm
Okay.
actually going to do a ChemSet event on May 2nd with my
Okay.
wife that is focused on a lot of the stuff we're talking about here, how to bring forth your best self, how to utilize and implement your intuition more effectively, a little bit of nervous system regulation. She's going to lead everyone through some Qigong. That's another great exercise. Any martial art, really, any exercise, generally speaking. Um, but yeah, I just think there's so many different tools and techniques, and especially with, AI or just the internet generally that people have to gain access to this stuff. It's really just about finding what works for you and
Okay. I
yeah,
have
just being authentic.
I have a question about ChemSet. Do you
Mhm.
have access to the results of the users? Because
I
my
do.
okay,
Yeah.
so my thought is what do you see on the spectrum of results? Are some people naturally better at predicting these things other than others, or do people kind of fall on a baseline overall over a large sample size? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yeah, so I actually haven't really analyzed the results. I do have access to them. I'm more focused on my own
Yeah.
gameplay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I have found uh, that there is some correlation between me really focusing on it and feeling through the decisions that empowers me to at least believe that I can beat average. And yeah, it's really actually quite fascinating that I feel I've made progress over time. But it would be
Yeah.
great to to analyze the data. I have it just sitting there in Firestore, I think it's called, wherever the Google backend is. But
Okay. Okay. Did you
yeah, it's a good
mention
question.
did you mention the you said you were doing that event with your wife, how people can find that? Did you say that already?
I put it out on X. I sent out an email to the people. So if you sign up for the Holistic Poker Handbook, you'll be on my email list. I'm not going to spam you. This is the only email I've sent out.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, it's on my X page, and there's only a few seats left at this point. I wanted to cap it at 20 participants because it's the first thing I've done of this kind. I sort of just wanted to see how it would go. It's $90 for the day, by the way.
Okay.
I just wanted to see how it would go to do a non-poker event because, in all honesty, I've taught a number of live poker workshops, and although most people say like, "Yeah, I want to get better at tournaments," when the theoretical discussions begin, most eyes start to close because
Yes.
it's just dry. It can be. It's not that it's not fun, and if you're engaged to really progress in that way, it can be very enjoyable. Um, but the interactivity where it's like, okay, we're sitting at the tables, we're dealing out hands, we're discussing stuff. That's way more fun. So I just wanted this to be an interactive, sort of imaginative, inspirational, intuitive event. And I don't know, we'll just see how it goes.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a fun day, though. I'm quite sure of that.
You said
Yeah.
did you say May 2nd? Is that
May 2nd,
May
yeah.
2nd?
And we're doing it up at Mount Charleston at the retreat. It's like used to be the lodge, it burnt down, they rebuilt it. Um, but yeah, we'll be outside for part of the day and just a beautiful area to be in.
For the Vegas
Yeah.
listeners or anyone maybe in that area at that time, you should check that out.
So, the ChemSet app, I tried to find it once. I actually couldn't. So how do we get access to that again?
So I had meant to build a version for Android. I don't know if you have iOS or Android.
I've
And
yeah.
I just had not been able to succeed in doing so. And then I kind of got distracted when my child was born and life
Sure.
happened. So
That'll change things. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. But
Okay.
on my website, I have a ChemSet tab at the top, one of the headers, and the link to the iOS app is there. You
Okay.
can download it on like a MacBook as well.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right, cool.
All right.
Wes, we should run it and see whose results are better.
Yeah.
Would
Well,
love
Here's
to
my
see it.
here's my
I've
ego
heard
in the
you,
way.
I've heard you talk about it. So there's a point system where you get like some amount of points for the right card ranking, the right suit, and then the most points if you pick the right card, obviously.
Correct. So it's just a randomly shuffled deck of 52 cards. Every card that you pick, you're given 1 point for the right suit, three for the right rank, and 13 if you get it perfect. And then as you go through the deck, the cards are then grayed out. So you can't pick a card that has a 0% probability of being correct.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Well, Wes, I actually we've already asked you our reoccurring question the last time about art and science. I don't know if you remember that question, but I had another
It's a
question.
great topic. I'm happy to get back into it.
Yeah.
I did have another question for you, another philosophical type question. And this one,
Mhm.
I think, I feel like this is tailored perfectly for you. But it's, do elite instincts come from trusting yourself more or from distrusting your first reaction more?
Definitely trusting yourself. I think well, I mean, I guess the definitions are critical here, but your first reaction, I mean, reaction is typically not uh instinctual, or at least I don't think of it that way. But the first sense that you get is often uh or at least it typically has been for me a signal, or at least worth exploring. So
I feel that same way, but I also feel like it's healthy for me, and maybe this is wrong, but it's healthy for me to then recognize that if signal and say, is this actually a signal? You see what I'm
well,
saying?
yes, taking the time to then consider it and sort of feel into it in that sense, um, which is actually not to sort of harbor on the app, but that's something I think that the experience, irrespective of what it does for your intuition in game, it just puts you in a state where you're not thinking logically. You're just feeling into an experience. I think a lot of people maybe just don't do that often. I think maybe that's beneficial. Um, but yes, I do agree with you. Acknowledging what that first instinct or sense is, and then taking the time to uh, just, I guess, analyze it before snap acting, because that can, I mean, it can be fun sometimes to act very quickly. And
Yeah.
I do sometimes go through
Mhm.
pockets of gameplay where I'm acting quite fast, but
Speed
yeah,
chess.
I'm not sure it's the best way to always play.
Well, I mean, do you believe in the saying think long, think wrong?
Um,
I guess.
it's hard to say.
And to follow up on that, I guess my point is, how we recognize the signal, or we get that first instinct, and then we start questioning, is this a signal or not? I find
Right.
sometimes I will get jumbled at that point. Like, oh, well, I'll start questioning myself. Is this actually a signal? Like, instead of just trusting that first thought, and then I'll recognize it, and I'll go, is this, oh, wait, am I just mixing this up with noise now? And then all of a sudden, and then
Well,
that's the think long part.
correct. Yeah. And sometimes, to your point, like you have all the data, you're not synthesizing anything new, and you're just sort of like sitting there, uh, just sort of meandering.
Hmm.
That's not really
Hmm.
uh, helpful, and that likely would lead to a think long, think wrong type of outcome, I would
Okay,
think.
that makes sense. I will say that when it comes to golf, that think long, think wrong definitely plays a role for me. I have to get up there and just hit the ball because I will just the longer I stand over that thing thinking about how I need to fix or swing it, it's going to be a bad hit.
Well, I do think that when you're in that like long deliberate process, it's not that that can't be a part of a flow, but it feels to me like what you're describing is when like your flow state would be broken at that point. And I mean, if you can maintain a state of flow, that would certainly be ideal.
So it's just recognizing the difference between the two.
Yeah, again, it's always this discernment that is deeply personal, and that having like a trusted friend or confidant can help advise you on. But yeah, it really is an internal thing that you do have to be honest with yourself about,
Okay, okay.
like all things in poker.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
life too, right?
Yes.
Okay, just kind of wrapping things up here. What are some quick shot ideas? The first things that come to your head on getting your mind right for the WSOP?
Breathing, being relaxed, showing up, having a good time.
Fun, having
Getting good
fun.
sleep, yeah, having fun, eating the right
Sleep.
foods. You just really want to turn up where you're ready to play, whatever that means for you.
Okay, okay. Any
Well
hidden?
hydrated, we're in the desert, don't forget
Yes.
it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, for sure. A humidifier, maybe.
Yeah,
I
in a hotel room, that could be nice.
yeah. I actually thought of something as well, which is like sort of envisioning the outcome, like what happens if you just bust every bullet you're planning on like, and I'm thinking, hopefully I'm not going to go out and bust all 60 without cashing. But like for
Hmm.
someone who's going out for a week and a half and has a few tournaments, like envision what it would be like to just not cash the tournaments and like maybe feel okay with that now and then get excited about the fact like, oh, that actually hasn't happened yet. I get to go play and like try and
Case
crush,
that that's a great feeling to explore. I was actually kind of experiencing that last night when I was thinking about playing because I haven't got to play live for so long that I'm itchy now, and I'm just like, and I battle all these feelings like, oh, I feel like I'm gonna run bad for an extended period of time, but da da da. And that one seems to stick with me or come to fruition a lot more. But last night I had a feeling where I was just like, man, I'm excited to just run extremely deep in a large live field, just kind of those positive feelings, and you know, it's just
yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think I wrote about this in the Holistic Poker Handbook. But there is a Stoic idea of like the premeditation of evils, which is essentially just acquainting yourself with this, possible, unpreferred outcome, and then just accepting it,
Mhm.
and then just being okay with it. It helps to reduce the fear in game.
I feel like
I think
Jared
that's
Alderman really talked about that topic really well as well.
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to
I
go
think
watch this podcast with you guys.
yeah. Um man, it also brought me back. I think it was like Fader Holtz and Elliot Rowe talked about that or something like envisioning the most negative outcome, the most positive outcome, and then just once you're okay like kind of emotionally level with either one of those, like, well, the outcome's almost certainly going to be somewhere in the middle, right? So,
Or it
you
could
know,
be better than either.
it could
We
be.
should remain open to such things.
I like that
Yeah.
thought. Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
But I do think not
um,
being attached generally is a very helpful way to live.
mhm.
I agree. Temper your expectations.
Well, I think the
Yeah.
expectations can be okay. It's the attachment to the expectations that
Okay.
becomes uh or
Yeah, like,
can become painful because then if you're expecting something it doesn't happen but you're not attached, you're like, "Oh, okay, no big deal." But if you're attached to it, that's where that emotional pull happens where you're kind of chasing it in a way, but it's gone.
Okay.
yeah.
Um, Favorite restaurant in Vegas right now?
Earth Cafe is so reliable.
Where's that located?
They have one that's like Durango 215. There's one at the Wynn. They have one in Henderson at the District. Um,
Earth Cafe. Okay.
yeah, my wife and I actually went on our second night out since having the baby last night. We went to the King's Fish House in
Yeah.
Henderson. That place was amazing.
Okay. By the way,
Gosh, just
your kid is 8 months old. Is that what you said?
8.5, yeah.
8.5. So yes, we're not even at one yet here, and we're 6 weeks in. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, it took us a while to get that first night out, but
yeah,
I mean, you're obviously you want to be home for a lot of it.
yeah.
Um, I'll give a shout out to Sen of Japan and Naked Fish, both good sushi spots in
Oh yes.
Summerlin. Uh, yeah, Juice Standards is good at the Cosmo Juice Bar, Sun Life Organics at the Aria, and also Durango 215 in the Uncommons. Good smoothies. Earth has good juice too. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of places. Greenhouse Cafe, uh, Cafe Express, Vesta Coffee. I mean, yeah, I could go on and on.
It's one of my favorite things about Vegas, coming out to Vegas
Such good
is
food.
it's just like, yeah, it's one literally like almost just as much or if not more looking forward to that over poker. Like,
Yeah, it's actually shocking that there's not better options at the WSOP.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Do you have a preferred WSOP on breaks, or do you just usually bring your own stuff?
Uh, no, I just try to find a way to get Nobu on dinner break and then
Okay.
just eat the cost of very expensive
Yeah.
food on the
Fair.
strip.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah.
Fair.
Wes,
What
yeah, go ahead.
what does your schedule look like now in terms of WSOP? I don't know if we even asked this back in the first time we had you on, but how has your WSOP schedule evolved over the years, and what's it going to look like this summer?
Yeah, good question. I would say that I've sort of continued to prioritize the higher buy-ins as they've run more of them and just tried to be a little bit more quality over quantity because it is so long. And I mean, last year, actually for the last 2 years, I've busted like midday three during the main. And I'll be honest, I was feeling fatigued at that point because I'd
Yeah.
played 6 or 7 weeks or whatever it was leading up to it. Um, so yeah, I think my focus is just going to continue to be, uh, play more of the higher buy-ins, less of the lower ones, because I just can't do it. I just cannot, nor do I want to play whatever 7 or 8 weeks straight of poker every day. Like I just need more time to chill out and go climbing or do yoga or whatever it is that just keeps me sane
Come see your
and
girl
Yeah.
smile. I can't, man. That's such a
yeah.
good one.
Yeah,
It's one
totally.
thing I can't wait for is like, but one thing busting tournaments is always hard, but you come back and then get to just like hang out with your kid. Like that's one thing I look forward to. One way to
Yeah,
ease
because
the
they're just in a
pain.
perpetual state of joy.
Yeah. Well, I
Well,
guess.
as long as they're not hungry
Yeah.
or fussy or whatever. But yeah.
Yes,
They're often
100%.
happy when they see you at first.
Yes, they are. My kid woke up this morning and like I said, he just started the smiling phase, and the first thing we got of him was like three large smiles, and it just melted, man. It was
Oh, it
crazy.
melts you. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. But yeah, I appreciate it
Oh,
again. Go ahead.
absolutely. I'll add one last thing that has been very helpful for me. Um, hot and cold exposure, so like sauna and cold plunge. I feel that something about the two together, it just is reinvigorating for me. And especially in the summer, if you can find a place to, be able to get in the sauna, get in the plunge, and then get some sun afterwards, because obviously the Vegas sun is pretty brutal, but after you've been in, 40 or 50-degree water and you come out, it's nice. I just absolutely love that. It just feels very reinvigorating. It refreshes me and it just helps me keep going. Because, yeah, poker can be a
Yeah.
grind, and those long days of intense focus, it does wear on you. And the sitting, of course, also doesn't do wonders.
I feel like I've done that before,
That's
and it
true.
gives me new life. It is,
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
amazing.
yeah, we went to my wife and I went to a place where there's a sauna where it was just a sauna box on a lake or like a trailer on a lake. You sit in the
Nice.
sauna, then you'd go out in the back and there's a bucket. You'd pull on the rope and it would just dump a bucket of
Oh,
ice on your head.
amazing.
And it sucks for a brief second, but you're just like,
Yeah,
oh, you feel like you could take on the world for a brief few
100%.
minutes. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
so good.
And something I particularly like about the cold is that I feel it does put you in a state of fight or flight, but then you get that opportunity to relax into it and acknowledge that actually, there is no threat here. You can get out at any time. And I
Yep.
think that's relatable for what we were talking about earlier at the table, where you can feel a threat or just the intensity of the moment and just, learn that mechanism of relaxing yourself.
That's a really good point. Um, yeah, that's a really good way to think about it. Do we want to do? I know a couple people have mentioned like they like if we do kind of a wrap up. Maybe the best few
Summarize.
points. Yeah, like so.
Yeah, let's do
For
it.
our listeners going out to the WSOP this summer, like, what are the few biggest takeaways we have here? I would start by saying just like, um, being present and
Yeah,
acknowledging whatever you feel.
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, don't hide from your emotions. Remember why you are playing poker, presumably because you enjoy it, and just look to have a good time. Um, Not everybody who plays the WSOP, myself and obviously many other pros included, will always have a winning summer.
Mhm.
And that goes back to, that like that premeditation of evil, so to speak, right? It's just acknowledging what can happen, just being okay with it, and just looking to have a good time. Release inner conflict when you find it, and be willing to explore your belief systems, introspect, reflect, and I'm a big fan of journaling. I typically when I'm playing, I'll come home and I'll just write like a page down of what happened during my day. It could just be a helpful way to like get some of the thoughts out, calm and quiet the mind, and get ready for bed, and ideally get a relaxing night of sleep, so you're refreshed for the next day.
I think that's great. And I want to take this one step further as well. And for the people
Mhm.
listening, is when you're there playing these 12-hour days, is maybe not every or, but every dealer change or something, stand up, take a breath, look around, and remind yourself that frequently throughout the day. Because I mean, essentially, you'll find yourself exhausted and maybe making suboptimal decisions. Or it's just a way to bring yourself back to present in these long days. Because remember where you're at, why you're having fun, and that'll help you play better as well. Just staying in that positive mindset.
Yeah, I did try the journaling thing a couple times recently. And one of them was after I busted a tournament a couple times, and I
I
was like,
also journaled recently. It was nice.
"That's cool."
Yeah.
Um, Look at us, and it's interesting because even as I was writing it down, I'm like, I was realizing like, oh, it's interesting that I feel this stuff now because this is just one of hundreds of tournaments I've played where I've busted out and like I I couldn't relate to the emotion I felt in any of those past ones right now. So it's like this will be in a short amount of time, this will be that too. This will just be like something that happened once that was similar to a lot of other ones. So
Yeah, well
Awesome.
said.
Awesome.
cool. Yeah.
Any other things we need to summarize here? I guess,
I'll just add that
yeah.
you mentioned like taking a breath during a dealer change. Um, I know a lot of people will like take a stand-up break before their big blind. That's pretty common.
Okay.
Because you're probably more likely to play a hand in the big blind relative to any other position.
Mhm.
Um, just defending against an open if it's folded to you. But yeah, I didn't really mention breathing too much, but I do think that sometimes if you feel like you're in a headspace that you don't want to be in, you're not in a preferred state of being, just taking a few deep breaths. And for me, I just focus on like feeling in my chest like that relaxation, that opening. if I can feel my heart, I typically am in a preferred state. Um, but yeah, sometimes we can go into like a shallow breathing without recognizing it, and again, sometimes that's just going to happen. It's not a big deal, not the end of the world, but yeah, just getting more oxygen in the system is going to be helpful for
Helpful for the
performance.
Mhm.
brain for sure.
Yeah,
There's no doubt about that. And then I also want to just kind of also reiterate the FOMO. While a lot of these people are out there for playing a lot of tournaments, I mean, if you need to take a break, like be honest with yourself and just skip that tournament, even if the value's so good and this field's so soft. Just give your mind a break. Go play golf, go bowling.
Don't people just say that about every tournament though? I mean, maybe
It's
with the
true. No, that's
exception of high
right.
rollers, but it's like
Yeah.
they're all soft, they're all good value. Like it's not going to kill you to miss one.
No, for sure.
yeah, and it can set you up for success in the one thereafter.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it definitely will. I think it'll increase your chances for sure. Wes, any last thoughts from you?
No, that sounds great to me.
Andrew, dude, it was so fun having you on for a second
I
time.
appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming and talking with us. I hope so. I will not be playing. If I play this summer, it'll be probably the main event. Obviously, with you got to be here to support my wife with the kids.
Oh yeah,
so,
100%.
as you know. So I next year we'll be back in the mix. This is the first summer because I played almost full schedule the last 3 summers. So it'll be nice to take a break. But one thing I do look forward to is a few things actually, real quick, is getting to watch both you and Wes just sweat you from afar. It's I mean, I get to sit here at home and I'll be watching the streams. I'll be following the updates. So please give me a good sweat, both of you guys.
You got it.
Also, WSOP coming back to ESPN. I hope that's as good as I think it's going to be because I always
Very
enjoy.
intriguing.
That's
Very
where
exciting.
I first found out about you, Andrew, or watched you. I was on. I think it was on probably. I don't know, was it like 2009 or something?
Amazing.
Which year was
Yeah.
it? Is it 2009?
That is
Had a year.
probably technically where I first heard of you too. But
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But yeah, I just look forward to. I'll still have a fun sweat while I'm here, so I'm looking forward to all that. And yeah, I guess we'll go ahead and end it there, guys. If you are new to the podcast, I'd appreciate if you took a moment and give this podcast a thumbs up or wherever you're listening to it. Hit the like button, the follow button, just anything to help on the search engine optimization helps us get spotted. So I appreciate that. Andrew, I will post all the stuff you talked about in the show notes. If you guys want to find Andrew and all the stuff, the thing with his wife, the event at
The
St. Charleston.
Chemstead immersion. Yep,
Yeah.
May 2nd. And then my website has everything else.
Yeah, so you guys will be able to find the links to all that in the show notes. Obviously, if you guys haven't yet, every other week we have a meetup game on Clubs Poker. We'd love for you guys to join us. It's a 55 sweeps coin buy-in where Wes and I absolutely launch it, especially against each other. Like, there's no 2 cards we won't play against each other.
yeah, especially on the first couple. I mean, literally there was God, what was I think we got in 8-3 versus you had 7 deuce and I got it in with 8-3.
Like for heaps. I think it was like 150 big blind potter maybe.
Yeah, I mean it's eventually we try and win it, but like
we start
first
off
couple
just
bullets we're trying like
it's literally for the entertainment factor too.
It is.
It's so good. It's so good because like we'll just text each other just laughing, just like laughing emojis. Also,
Like
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's like the old school stars rebuy strategy where people would just blind shove during the rebuy period. By the way, speaking of, shout out to Annette Oberstad, who's deep in the World Series Europe main event right now. Absolute legend of the game, returning in the most unexpected time. So
she won it.
I hope she
18,
makes a deep run in this.
Or was it 18 years old when she won it? Is that right? Or 21?
Wouldn't shock me.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, but anyways, how many people are left in that? Do you know? I've not been keeping
37 when I checked it this morning.
Okay, I'm gonna have to keep up on that. That's awesome. Yeah, shout out to Annette. And then yeah, also guys, Tilted Compass. They do our merch. If you guys haven't checked out Tilted Compass yet, they have some of the most comfortable hoodies and backpacks, poker player apparel. So check them out. You can find all this good stuff in the show notes. Wes, anything else I'm missing, brother?
That's it.
I did it.
Discord?
Discord. Yeah. Yep. Obviously, you've heard us talk about the Discord a million times, but like these discussions that we have in there are just a great place, especially for WSOP Prep. If you want to go and just go in there and ask any question you want. If you have trouble accessing the channels after you join, don't worry. I'll manually add you. I know it can sometimes be a hassle for people who are new to using Discord. So just hop in there. I'll see you eventually within a day or so and get you manually added if you're trouble.
And if you guys want to suggest any potential episode topics for us, that's the best place to do it as well.
Andrew, once you win a bracelet this summer, you're going to come back on and talk about it with us?
Absolutely. I love you guys. I'll come back on whenever.
I appreciate that,
awesome.
man.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, guys. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Good luck on the felt, and we will chat with you guys soon.